Welcome to the wild world of the diagnostic laboratory industry, where we focus on science, compliance, sales marketing, and self-mastery. Welcome to Lab Results with Blake. I'm your host, Blake Bork. We are going to jump into this idea of a power leak. Leak, L-E-A-K. And I'm a bad speller, right? But ultimately, we're talking about leaking like oil in a car. Leaking hydraulic fluid where we've lost pressure, something that's crucial for us to maintain either viscosity inside of that engine to make sure that all the parts can continue to move, or pressure for us to be able to lift things. We're building power inside of our bodies, inside of our ability to be able to solve problems, for us to collide with clients, for us to collide with prospects. We have to build power. But it's not just the building of power. We need to maintain the power, maintain the pressure, and we could be leaking power in some areas. And I want to talk about that today because I was explaining this to what is going to be, hopefully a future client of mine. And in writing the proposal, a lot of what we're going to be doing is coaching on the core four, right? So my coaching and consulting business is called the Core Academy. We called it the Core Academy because we were actually talking about selling core products, but also because I had so much influence in my life on the core four, which is body, being, balance, and business. And so look, we could rename it physical, financial, family, but ultimately we're talking about our body domain, what we bring to every single conversation and what takes us home every single night, and the energy levels that we have, the certainty that we get from being, good physical nature, the presence, the confidence. A lot of that comes from us working out and our nutrition, right? The being spot right here is something that can scare some folks. And what I mean by that is, for whatever reason in our society, talking about God in the workplace is not encouraged. And God we trust is on our money, and we go to business for money. But ultimately, if we talk about God, we feel like maybe we're not including others who don't believe in God. And so that'll make us steer away from the being domain. And so we have this really like inclusive nature around, well, we're talking about meditation. We're talking about the universe. Some people will talk about it because they don't want to talk about God. And for me, look, man, Jesus makes me tick. That's something it has fixed my life in so many ways. I would be disingenuous if I told you that, but also I realized that there was a long period of my time where I didn't believe that. I did not believe that Jesus had saved me. I didn't believe that the Bible was real, that it was true. And I have now spent a lot of time inside of the Gospels, and I've spent a lot of time researching the origin of the Bible, and I've taken courses, and I've devoted time to know now that I believe that it's true. I do, right? And when I didn't believe it, I had a power leak. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person if you don't believe the way I believe. I respect faith and people's faith that they have. I am never going to be a guy, and I can say never on this, I'm never going to be a guy that's not going to give a student time or attention because they don't believe the way that I believe. Because I'm telling you, if you've seen one person's relationship with God, you've seen one person's relationship with God. And it's important that we realize that we meet people where they are. I've just found out what works for me. And so my job is to find out what works for you. And if you don't have faith, if you don't believe, then I'd love to have a conversation with you about how my life changed and where this gap in the spirituality has really fixed some things. When we get into balance, we're talking about our family, our partner, and our posterity. And if you're a single person, if you don't have a heterosexual relationship, if you don't have children, when we talk about marriage and married businessmen, which is one of my specialties, right? Ultimately, it can because of what happens in the news and because of the divisive nature of our politics right now and what we hear by talking about family and marriage and children, ultimately it makes people feel like, well, if you talk about that, you're going to make others feel bad. Bullshit. Like we have a family unit. My wife and I are married, right? I don't know what it's like to be a gay man. I don't know what it's like to be a gay woman, but I do know what it's like to respect all human beings for their decisions. And I know that we have all different kinds of people that exist in our world. But because I connect with married businessmen, because I am one, I'd be lying if I told you I know what it's like to be a black man in America. I play football with hundreds of black men. I've got great friends that are black men, but I don't know what it's like to be a black man in America. All I can do is tell you what it's like to be a poor white guy in America coming up. And we have completely different opportunities. So I, as a coach, have got to meet that person where they are. I have been in situations where I felt like my marriage was over. I've been in situations where I felt like I wanted to be single whenever I was in a relationship before I got married, right? I was like, I don't want to be monogamous anymore. Like, I know that things change. And after my wife and I lost our daughters, we had a decision to make. We could either grow closer together or we would grow apart. And so when we coach inside of marriage, we're bringing that ultimately. There's relationships that we have with our parents. There are relationships that we have with our siblings. There are relationships that we have with our business associates and partnerships, with our bosses, with our mentors. There are relationships that we have with our children and our nieces and our nephews and our cousins, right? The balance domain is, how do we make all that improve? How do we get it to where it's going to be a power creator, not a power leak, where when we go show up for the holidays, we feel like shame because we're sober. Somehow we're the bad guy because we've decided to lose 10 pounds. All of a sudden, people are triggered by us because we've gotten better, and we feel guilty because they haven't. And so how do you get that power creation, that power pump, to be something that's not leaking? We don't want there to be a drain inside a body. We don't want there to be a drain inside of being in our spirituality. We don't want there to be a drain inside of our balance, because ultimately we're trying to create all this power so that way we can walk in with certainty inside of our business. And business can be a massive power leak inside of those other three domains. If we feel like we're running with the wrong type of people and we have the wrong choices that are constantly in front of us, we're presented with three choices, and all of them are a sin against our belief system, against our integrity, against our character. If we're presented with three choices and all of them hurt your family, all of them will put your children in a worse situation. If we're presented with three choices in body, and they're alcohol and their sleepless nights, and there's this depression and this guilt and this shame, it's a power drain on my family and my children. If I'm playing with my children and I'm worried about money, if I'm sitting there on a date night with my wife and I'm worried about my clients, right? This is where this meditation and this prayer and this spirituality comes in. If I'm sitting across the negotiating table in the business realm, and I am trying to position for a better deal, and I woke up, and I got my workout in, I got my gospel hour in, I was able to meditate. I wrote my sticky notes to my wife and to my children. Every single day I draw a picture for my children, and I write a love note to my wife. And when I don't do it, it feels weird now. That puts me in a spot of gratitude. So that way I'm gracious for the things. And my wife knows I'm in love with her. Why? Because I write her a love note every day. And that's not to say that I'm better than anybody else who doesn't. That's to say that I found something that works for me, and it can work for you too. That goes into my business because I have priorities. When I coach clients, one of the biggest things I have to do is make sure that they understand that nobody cares if you're a nice guy or a nice lady. People are going to take advantage of you if you don't have your priorities set. Your business's health is more important than people liking you. You will make unpopular decisions, especially when clients are taking advantage of you. You find yourself in a deal and the win-win is both wins are in the client's column. It's not a good deal for you. You're not going to survive inside of that deal. It's wasting your time. You're leaking power. And you start to build resentment, leaking power. And it can cause some sleepless nights, leaking power. And you're not really telling the truth, leaking power. And so these domains are connected. And the more in line you can get where you can say no when there's a power leak. No, I got to get my workout in. No, I got to read the Bible today. No, I got to go on a date night. No, I'm not doing that deal because we're not going to be able to survive if we do it. It's going to distract us from our mission, our vision, and our purpose. It's causing too many other issues. No. So in the power leak, one of the biggest things that you can do to stop the power leak is to say no and to have obedience and to be able to actually put these lanes up and recognize with your eyes open that working out, self-love, meditating and praying is self-love. Date night and time with your family is self-love. And a business deal, man, that makes both parties win. That's self-love. That's joy. That's fun. Right? And love plus fun equals connection. And so if you want to connect with yourself and connect with your family and connect with your God and connect with your clients, right? You've got to figure out a way to be able to invest in yourself inside of each one of those domains. If you're not, you will leak power. You will leak power. You will be less of yourself and you'll feel it. And that's where the guilt and the shame starts to come in. And that's going to get in the way of the decisions that you have to make because you're going to shunt off those feelings. One of my mentors, Coach David, Dr. David, he says you must feel the feelings that you're supposed to feel so that way you'll do the things that you're supposed to do. Drinking a beer to numb the feelings of the day, to blow off steam. You're not blowing off anything. You're holding yourself hostage from the decisions that need to be made, right? Getting on social media, taking an hour and going look at pornography. That's not doing anything for your marriage. It's not doing anything for yourself. All it's doing is building more shame and guilt inside of that place. And so as we coach across the core four, and you're looking at this message, think about where can you, it's the beginning of the year, right? I mean, we're still in early Q1. We haven't even got through all the way through January yet. Start looking at where can you build power inside of your body? Where can you double down on your spirituality? Getting to church, reading scripture, meditating, taking time to slow the world down. Where can you put a date night on your calendar? Get the babysitter lined up that'll take care of your children. Engineer the date night so that way you and your partner, you and your wife, you and the person that you love can spend time together. And if you're single, where can you find good people who love you back? And from the business standpoint, are you in a bad deal? What can you do to make the deal better? Realizing that sometimes you got to say no to a bad situation that's going to leak power across the other domains because you owe it to yourself to love yourself in every single domain that's on the table. You've been listening to Lab Results with Blake, with your host, Blake Bork. Please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Remember, greatness is contagious.